Did you know the Melee Illuminati is part of the liberal world order? Say no to the woke mob. Here are the fucking puppets of the Melee Illuminati, Part 2.
Yo guys, NoFluxes here. This is Melee Illuminati Part 2. I'll be going over number 11 through 20 today. And these people may not be as popular and notable as the last list of people that I showed, but everyone on here has some pull. They all have different positions, and I will go over why they're all important in their own way, and I will go over certain things, my own personal issues with some of these people, as well as what I know they do, and this will be good. So anyway, let's start with Gimmer, number 11. Gimmer has been around for a long time, right? Gimmer's been around, and you know, I don't know him like other people do. I never really talked to him much, and look, he doesn't look that suspicious because he's always there, just kind of like setting up. You know, he's the broadcaster guy, and he's just setting up, and you know, you can't tell that he's really doing anything behind the scenes. You wouldn't suspect it, really. So Gimmer's really been one of the head guys that's always had influence, and definitely, like, if he doesn't want you there, I'm sure he has sway in it. I'm sure he could tell the TOs why you're bad and why you shouldn't be there, and why it's just bad for the environment, and how I'd rather not have you there. So for sure, Gimmer is the highest guy on this list. I will say for sure he's number 11, and I think that there's a lot of weird things. There are some accusations in the past that, you know, I don't know how he got out of that, but whatever. So he got out of that. And then in recent times, for example, Pound last year, which I went to, there was a lot of complaining when he was running the stream. People were saying that, you know, he didn't care about pronouns, and he didn't care about putting them on the screen. And basically, there was a lot of backlash, and in the end, he put out an apology statement, and basically completely bending over to the woke mob and saying that he was sorry for the way that, you know, for how it was handled. And because, you know, what I heard was that he got accused of hiring mods to just like delete all messages complaining about the pronouns and stuff, and it wasn't that big time, but he cucked out, and St. Louis had put out a ban on him. But you know, that's a joke. Like, that's not real. They did that shit for me and HBox too. But the point is, he like shortly came out, like right after that, he had come out with some video like talking about how he has new tech and ultimate, and he was gonna reveal this big type technique, and he came back in good standing suddenly, even after like the mob hated him. So suddenly Gimmer was in good standing again, and then not too much after that, you hear about the beef with him and Dr. Allen. Suddenly Dr. Allen is getting accused of all this shit, you know, supposedly working with Nintendo to shut down the tournaments, and Gimmer actually threw him under their bus, and they were beefing. And that was kind of like the hot thing for a couple weeks. Nowadays, nobody talks about Dr. Allen anymore, but I actually believe that Gimmer conspired with many other people to get rid of Dr. Allen, and whether it was working with the BTS crew or whatever, he was in on it, dude. Gimmer is a snake, dude. He's bad, and I know that at this point he doesn't want me there anymore. So for sure, he's number 11 here, and that's it for now for him. So okay, we'll move on to Give Me That Wheat, who I like to make fun of sometimes because I got removed from the top 100, and they'll say, right? They'll say, oh, you know, you weren't on the ballot. Okay, I wasn't on the ballot because I was removed from it. And I have the evidence. I actually have the evidence. Confirming that I was removed from the ballot because of the gorilla thing. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Even if I show the evidence right now, it doesn't change the fact that I was removed. You know, people could try to lie and say, oh, you weren't good enough, you were not. They could keep arguing that shit, but, you know, it's a stupid argument because Westballs also didn't make it that year. And, you know, they can remove people. And I've showed evidence in the past that the top 100 all-time list has been altered. They have been taking out people such as the Shizwiz and, you know, La Luna or, you know, DJ Nintendo. They'll probably take them out soon. So, you know, regardless, when they don't want you there because you're accused of shit and they're petty level offenses, then they'll take you out. If you're not politically correct, they'll take you out. So this is the main guy that is a director, and he somehow got into that position where he's the director of the panel, and the other guys are afraid to change it and make it more fair. So I like to call him "Give Me That McDonald's" because you know why. So but anyway, we're gonna move on because I'll talk more about why he has ties to the other panelists and why they're all corrupt and they're all snakes. So the next guy that's actually not as related to it, but it's partially related to it, is Dark Genx, who, look, I have a lot of good things to say about Dark Genx, but the problem is when it came down to my situation, and when it came down to me reaching out to, you know, higher level TOs and just trying to work it out, like, he was one of the only guys that even responded, but it was still kind of a biased situation where, like, I told him how it was, I told him it was unfair, and he tried, he just gave me basic advice, and I'm thankful that at least he did reveal a couple things to me. Like, there were points where he told me that, you know, they tried to do a national ban against me, and it didn't go through. It actually didn't go through. And look, I know he's in a good spot, and he's probably not worried. But I only wish that things could have worked out, and that people weren't acting like I committed a crime because some stupid little gorilla thing, you know. And Dark Genx never really said that Justice made a mistake. He never said that, you know, mutt's a real racial slur. And to this day, I will still argue that that's incorrect. It is a racial slur. And, you know, you can call me stubborn, but, like, you shouldn't have a bias about it. It's like, it either is or it isn't. And if you're going to say it isn't one, and you don't want to admit it, it's because you're afraid to be the guy to do the right thing. And regardless, Dark Genx is a panelist. He definitely knows that they do remove people. And, you know, maybe he felt that he couldn't change it, even if he had spoke up and said, like, hey, where's NoFluxes? Why isn't he on the ballot anymore? He wasn't gonna do it. So that's the thing. He never did it. He never questioned it. And in the end, suspiciously, I was removed, and they're gonna just keep lying about it and covering it up, saying that I wasn't on there and that I wasn't good enough because of, you know, that's the reason. That's what they're gonna say. But we know I was good enough, and we know I had beaten several top players, and that my losses were pretty good too. My standings were really good, and they didn't count anything. So of course I would have a problem with that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 14, and this guy, Edwin Budding. This guy is actually very bad, but he's basically invisible. He's very invisible. Like, you would never know that he's actually in a position of power. You would never know that he's, you know, pushing for people to be removed, and he's telling other panelists, okay, let's remove this guy because of his past or the accusations. But he's actually the main guy that has been advocating for that, and I have proof too. I have evidence of it where he was talking about how Allen, right, Dr. Allen, wanted people to be on the top 100 all-time list still, and like even people that had those accusations against them. And Allen felt that it was fair if they had credible results, and it was about the game, not about not about politics and not about their social status or anything else. It was just about the gameplay and results. This guy, and along with maybe someone else that worked for Panda at the time, basically sided with, well, let's remove people, and it started to get a little worse, where they would actually take it to the annual, the yearly top 100 as well. And so this guy's a kind of, I would say he's the right hand man for Gimme That McDonald's, and because of that, they're a deadly combo. You have the guy who's really doing it taking the heat for it if anyone comes after him. He's Gimme That McDonald's, the main guy doing it. Like, he's the director, and then you have his right hand man that's basically invisible, that nobody ever suspects, but he's the one that's calling for it and saying, okay, let's pull this guy. And so that's really what's going on here. So the next guy I want to bring up, number 15, Junah. And he actually, I knew Junah early on, early in my career. I knew Junah, and I have somewhat good memories, and I never really thought he was a bad guy in person. I never thought in person he was a problem anyway. The problem is cancellations started to happen. Back when I knew him, it wasn't really a thing. It was kind of like we were just all homies hanging out and shit. We were just kind of just playing the game and hanging out. But then there used to be a crew in Chicago before it really took off. We called it Melee Every Day, and it was the kind of the headquarters, and they were the broadcasting team. It's still around, but I want to say this because a lot of people don't know the history. But Melee Every Day was founded by Vro. His name was Kerry, but the point is, Vro was he was a unique person. He was a little hard to work with, but you know what? He did create Melee Every Day, and he did do a lot for the community. He actually did a lot. He traveled all over the place. He was actually good at connecting. Like, he was good at getting connections, and he made it work. And the only reason that Melee Every Day really took off was because that passion for it. And Junah was always there, and he was always his right hand man, basically. Junah was his right hand man, and he did the broadcasting work for him. He always ran the streams, and he was good at it. But what happened is that at some point later, Vro moved away. I think he went to California, and they split, and Junah was had to room elsewhere, and he eventually lived elsewhere. He might even move to a different state, like Indiana. So they separated, and then I heard that some shit happened where Vro got canceled and got accused of some weird stuff, cyber stalking a woman, and it was a weird situation that I don't want to put too much attention into right now. But basically the whole Melee Everyday crew that used to work for Kerry threw him on their bus, and Junah was one of the main guys that made him look bad and said, oh, this guy was using gay slurs, and even though I told him it was bothering me, he still kept doing it, and things like that. And none of them really stood up for him. So Vro got canceled, and I really wish it didn't happen that way, because Chicago was cool the way that it used to be. OG Chicago was cool. I was there, and I would go to the Smash Fest that people threw, and there would be like a weekly, every day. Every day of the week there was a weekly, a local, and it was cool back then. And I wasn't that good, but it was a different environment. It was just like gamers, and it wasn't woke shit. It wasn't like you had to be woke to be accepted, and there was no mask, there was no vaccine, and they weren't forcing you to use their pronouns and all that garbage. So the point is, things changed, and Junah has always had pull. He's always been able to get high roles in the sense that he's running the broadcasting. he's running the broadcast, whether it's Genesis or whatever else, Riptide, and he's still kind of there in the background, and he's got connections, and they like him. So, do I believe that Junah is actually someone that has power in the community? Absolutely. I think that he's still kind of there, and that he's definitely pro-LGBT, and that means that if you're not that, then you're kind of like not as urgent or prioritized in the community. And he definitely, I'm sure he's mostly, well, I'm sure he is cool with all the LGBT people that have power. So the point is, when cancellations happen, he's gonna take that really cancel culture side. He's not going to look into it and argue. He's always gonna side with it automatically because he believes that it's good. So Junah, I wish, would not be part of the woke culture, but he's kind of invisible. You wouldn't expect him to be, corrupt, but there's a lot of corruption that comes from Chicago, and ever since Roe got canceled, things went down the shitter. So that's that. Number 16 is somebody that I have a lot of history with. Unsure. Andrew, but we call him Cuck Drew sometimes. Maybe it's pretty offensive. Maybe it is something he doesn't want to be called. But look, man, let's talk about Riptide again. Riptide, there were two TOs that really could have changed the situation. They could have done something. Right, you had this guy who ran the melee bracket, and he was there, and he obviously knew what was going on. And you had the other guy, Aaron, who's really more of the guy to get the venue and work out, deal with the water park. So Unsure didn't do anything when it came down to the situation. He didn't actually talk to me about it. He didn't confront me. He didn't give any advice, and nobody really helped me when it was going on. But the other TO is the one that eventually confronted me after I had to tell him something on Discord. But Unsure to this day has never really reached out to me. He's never tried to say something. He is basically another melee Illuminati person. He's another invisible guy that's always there gossiping, or even if he's not gossiping, the people that are gossiping, he's okay with all the shit they're saying about me, and he's fine with me being banned permanently because he's mad about it in the past where I would beat his ass, and he's mad that I always looked cooler than him and shit. So he's stuck on the past, and he doesn't know how to get over it, and he sided with Aaron. So because he sided with a corrupt TO in the situation, he doesn't want to go back on it and change anything, and he feels like he's stuck supporting him because he had to pick me or him, and of course he picked the guy that was already running stuff. So obviously, this is kind of personal. I didn't really have a real problem, Unsure, but because he sided with Aaron and because that shit got out of hand, and he's not trying to bring me back to Chicago, right? Because that's another thing I could talk about. I did multiple apologies. I want to bring that up because even when I had done the first apology, which was a written statement, and the second one, which was a video, none of the Chicago TOs said anything. They didn't say okay, maybe we could give this guy another chance in half a year or a year from now. I was stuck waiting, and no TOs were taking it up and trying to undo any bans or giving me a path back. It was just we'll just wait around. Too bad. Nobody was giving me advice. So I want to say that Chicago, along with Ohio and even Wisconsin, all of them teamed up on me, and they just try to throw me in the garbage and portray me as this horrible racist white supremacist guy that just for the sake of some oppression narrative to exist. They're so desperate, they would rather keep it that way. They don't want to question it. They don't want to question it and be like, oh, well, maybe it really wasn't that way. Maybe Fluxes wasn't malicious. They're so afraid. It's not even close to neutral. They're just automatically siding with it. It was true. And really, Unsure was the main guy that kept me out, because I'll tell you more. There are stooges that work under this guy, and he's going to try to act like there's nothing going on. He's not putting people up to it. But they voted on a ban, and really, all of them were in on it. whether it was, Ovo or Tenacity or whatever. These guys are just cucks that work under him. And Unsure probably thinks he's high and mighty now and that CLM's working out. It's better without me. That's probably how he feels anyway. But I was top talent. I am still popular. I do have the infamy, and it's because of that stupid situation. Regardless, there are cucks that work for Unsure. And those guys don't want to work it out with me, and they're trying to just dismiss it forever. The whole region's just trying to dismiss it forever, so this is what I have to do. The next guy, number 17, would be Chroma, who I don't actually know. I've never met him, but he's really shitty. He's got that personality that, like, he's gonna side with the woke garbage, and he's gonna try to, like, do sarcastic humor all the time, and that's how he is. He's always there to chime in, and he's always there on Twitter getting involved with viral situations or whatever it may be. And he's not as bad as Slime. Like, Slime will bully people, like, really bad. And Slime just thinks he's cool for it. And, he's going to be the SJW for them. So, Slime's worse. He's a little more demonic about it. Chroma's not as demonic. He's just bad. He's just one of the stooges that's involved with the panelists. The whole panel thing is corrupt because there's a bias. They rig it. They rig the rankings, whether it's like the arrangement of it or taking people off it or whatever. There's always a bias. So Chroma was actually high in terms of that. Like, he's one of the main panelists. Arguably, he's higher than Dark Genx in it because he's closer to the Give Me That McDonald's. So Chroma's really bad. You wouldn't really know too much about the fact that this panel thing is a huge part of the scene until once you really get far in it and you're trying to get ranked and you're going to everything, then you see why it's corrupt. And the higher you are in it, probably the more you see that there's a bias and, like, you got to kiss up to them or you got to push woke shit to get higher spots. Or even if you're really good, it's still about likability. Alright, so that's all I have to say about him. We'll move on to the next guy. Number 18 is somebody who you might not know. This guy, Pangu. You may not know him. You might think that, like, who's this guy? That's my point, though, is that a lot of these guys are kind of invisible. Pangu is actually, like, somebody that was... Apparently, he had ties with Beyond the Summit. And he might have been an executive, even. He was a high position for Beyond the Summit. And when they were announcing they were shutting down, he was probably left with having to go elsewhere and take a different role. But, I want to say real quick that I don't have hard evidence that Pangu has had it out for me. I don't have hard evidence that, like, he was gossiping and trying to put people up to canceling me. And, but I do believe that he has done it. I do feel something there. Like, this guy he's always had some pull in it. And even when I was trying to get into Summit, I feel like something went down. Like, back when Summit 12 was going down and I was campaigning, halfway through, some BS happened where, like, people use some clips that, out of context, they use clips against me. Talking about Ikeman and D1, another player. And I believe that this guy knew about it and he was working for BTS. So I believe that something went down and there was some gossip amongst the top guys, amongst, the people running Summit. And all of a sudden, I'm getting canceled, well, semi-canceled. A tweet comes out saying that I'm defending criminals and this and that. And it hurt my reputation. It hurt my campaign. I went on to get eliminated from that Summit 12 campaign. It was unfortunate because I was in good standing before that stupid thing came up. So Pangu, I believe, is the guy that pulled strings there in that situation. I still believe that to this day. Even without hard evidence, I feel it. I'm going to go with my gut instinct. I'm going to go with, that vibe. Because, I mean, we have intuition, man. And, people want to act like there's no soul. And I'm just a nutcase. Go ahead and keep saying all that shit, man. Because all these guys are fucking corrupt. All these guys are fucking puppets, dude. Anyway, we're gonna move on to number 19. So this guy Etost, look, I mean, he looks like he's innocent. He looks charming and friendly. Like, that's the thing about him. You look at his picture, you would never expect him to be bad. Like, based on just that picture alone, you would think, oh, this guy's good. You know, he's got a clean image. But he had blocked me after after I was removed from the top 100. Really, I mean, they're gonna say that's not what it was. Whatever. We know that I was removed from the ballot at the very least. And this guy I'm sure he knew about it happening. I'm absolutely sure that he was one of the main guys that was okay with the decision, and he just always sided with Chicago's narratives. And if you look into his tweets, like, he's always been kissing ass to CLM, and he's very pro CLM. So he's bad, dude, and he has me blocked on Twitter still, and I called his ass out before, but you know. The point is, he's one of the main panelists. If we were to look at the rankings, though, of the panelists, like the main guys in power, they all have different roles, right? So we can go over that real quick again. I want to just make it clear so that people know their roles. Because, you know, the panelists all have different positions. So give me that McDonald's as director, right? And then you have this guy, Edwin Budding. He's like the journalist kind of guy writing the stuff up for them. He's one of them, at least, but he's one of the main guys. He's also the right-hand man for giving that McDonald's. And then you have Chroma, who's kind of just a regular panelist, but I think that he, you know, because he's one of the guys running Melee Stats, he's involved with that. You know, all of these guys are kind of journalists because of Melee Stats. So Chroma, Etost, Edwin Budding, and Give Me That McDonald's are all part of Melee Stats. Dark Genx might not actually be part of it, but he has connections with everyone, and he is a panelist. There were a lot of panelists, though. There were top players that, for some reason, were panelists, too. Like, Slug, you know, it's suspicious how a top player is a panelist and could rig the ranks around, too. And that's really suspicious. But Slug's a fucking traitor, and, you know, he was a Zion supporter anyway. And I beat his ass a couple times, but you know, he's been supporting Justice recently too. I noticed that he's not really around that much, but Slug's not good. Slug's actually corrupt, and maybe he didn't sell his soul all the way, but you know, there were a lot of panelists. But going back to Etost, number 19, yeah, he's definitely you know, just a random panelist that works for Melee Stats, and he's not as threatening, like, in terms of power, but they're all in on it. They're all just part of the same screw job, and they're all just going to side with the woke bullshit. And Melee Stats is a leftist, you know, org. So at the end of the night, like, you know, because of that alone, it's a political bias. Like, they're automatically against me. Next guy is actually someone that you should know, Sward, number 20. Sward is one of the main mascots for the LGBT community. I want to say that people should know that he has power and that he's there to virtue signal and try to cancel people all the time. Because he's trying to get Johnny, he's trying to get me before, you know. And honestly, he'd probably get mad because I'm saying he. Like, he's the type of person that would be like, oh, don't call me he, that's not my pronoun. Like, he would get obsessed over that. Like, he would get so triggered. The pronoun thing is something that, like, these people just, like, that's all they care about. Like, they prioritize their pronouns over everything else. Like, that identity aspect is, like, so important to them. They're obsessed over this shit. But Sward is one of the main LGBT mascots. I don't think that they're, you know, as powerful as somebody like Polish, for example, or even B-Bats. But when it comes down to being vocal and selling people out and doing demonic shit for the woke mob, I will say it's bad. And there's a lot of heavy gossip. There's a lot of rigging around. Like, Sward orders DevDog to pull people out of their events. And Sward's gonna always go to the other LGBT people and basically form some kind of mob and conspire and gossip to keep people out, and it's very noticeable too. You know, like if there's any narrative that makes you look kind of bad, like Sidward's gonna be there to ensure that you're in bad standing, and they're gonna feel entitled to some apology, and they're still gonna complain after that. And because I want to go back to the situation where a woman made a tweet saying that I was defending criminals, right? After that happened, there were several people in the community that were going after me, and Sidward actually had started pulling me from events, and he even DM'd me one time saying, "Hey, you're banned from my events for defending Eichelman." And it's like, I was like, "What? When did I defend them?" Like they took something out of context, and even after I did an apology, right? I actually tried to do an apology and try to clear it up with the person that was saying that I defended criminals and this and that, and I try to like tell them, look, it wasn't like that. It was more like I opened discussion, but regardless, Sidward had it out for me as soon as that narrative was out there, and it never got better, even after I did apologies. And they've been telling other people to keep me out, and I know that between Sidward and DevDog, they're both just kind of, stuck on a power trip, and they think they can just have that pull, to get rid of anyone, at least in some smaller amount. Like maybe they can't just pull out anyone from the whole scene, but I think they would like that kind of power, and that's why they're bad, because they feel like, oh well, because we're LGBT, we determine everything here. We're more important than you, and you better listen to us. And it's just they're stuck on a power trip because of that alone. But Sidward's really like more demonic about it, and DevDog is more just used as a pawn in it. So regardless, this goes over. Yeah, this is basically it for now. This list, this is a good list to me. This is a good 11 to 20. But I don't know if I'll be making a third one. I don't know if I'll be making a 21 to 30 in the near future. And if I do ever make something else, I might. What I want to say is that I believe that everyone who I've mentioned so far, with the previous list and this one, I believe that every single person has sold out. Like that's it. They all sold their souls, and they're all going down the shithole, and they're all gonna be stuck in the same pit, and they're all gonna be rotting, and they could gossip there about me forever if they want. I don't give a shit. The point is, all these guys sold their souls, man, and there's no way back. There's no way back. So, you want war and you want to keep doing this shit, and I guess it's gonna keep going this direction. I'm down to squash the beef with anyone still. I'm down to meet them down the middle, and and I've said that many times. I was down to stop talking about politics. I was down to just play a cool game, but they didn't give me a second chance. Even after I tried, they just didn't want to let me back in. They were so desperate to stick to that stupid ass narrative. They're just so desperate to make it seem like they care about black people. They want to lie, say I did something racist. They want to lie and just say I wasn't good enough to be in the top 100, and and this covers a lot. Like, maybe this isn't everyone corrupt in the community, but I'm telling you guys that these people are all bad, and this list was more about panelists and other types of roles, right? Because you had Gimmer, who is really a broadcasting guy. You have Junah, who's also a broadcasting guy. And you have people like several panelists, right? You have several panelists here, like, ETOS, Chroma, whatever. Pangu is actually more like, he was, again, part of a bigger team, would be on the summit. So he had pull in it. Like, if he didn't want you there, then he could just probably tell the other guys, like, hey, this guy's bad for us, so we need to do something. So this is actually really mixed of a group you see here. You got a TO here, who has the little minions, he has the little goons. And then you have Sidward, who's part of the LGBT mob. And Dark Genx, look, one last thing I want to say is that Dark Genx definitely, like, there were times it seemed like he kind of cared, and he was kind of being a little bit more, like, I don't know if I want to say he was being neutral, but at least he was hearing me out and responding. I respected that. The problem is it went nowhere, and the problem is I'm still banned from, I'm really not officially banned, but they're treating me as if I'm banned. It's like a shadow ban. And I want to say that I don't blame it on Dark Genx. He's not the guy that banned me from Riptide. He's not running Chicago. I'm not saying it's his fault. I just wish that things could have went better. And do I believe that he's part of the corruption? The only reason that I do, right? The only reason that I do believe it is because when corruption happens, you only have two options. You call it out and you actually like tell people, hey, this is wrong, man. Or you just let it happen anyway. Or you get off. I guess there's three options. Like, you could just be one of the guys that's trying to outdo it or trying to one up it or whatever and getting off on it. But he actually, I believe Dark Genx was just there and he saw it happening, but he didn't say anything. He's one of those kinds of guys like, well, it's not me doing it. It's like, yeah, you're right, it's not you. But you're letting the other guys do it, though. And what am I supposed to do, When they have it all out for me and, like, there's no fair chance back in. Come on, dude. What do I have to do to get back in then? Because it seems like it's rigged against me. So I might as well double down. I might as well keep fighting back. That's all I want to say, man. There's nothing else I could do other than just point out this shit. And, it's not personal. I will say that if there's anything personal here, it's only with Unsure. And everyone else on this list, like, maybe some of these people don't like me and they don't want me back ever again. But Unsure is the only guy who, like, took this personal route to, like, defend Aaron and keep me out because he knows I'm important to Chicago, but he's going to make me look shitty. He's going to have all these people defame me and spread lies because that's what they want to do. They want to spread lies that I was going to hurt the TOs and bomb places, apparently, which is insane. But there were people in the community that were saying that, and the gossip hurt me. Led to an Ohio ban, led to the Kilroy situation, them banning me, and then Coinbox banned me, so I'm still dealing with this predicament, and yeah, maybe now it's like, the situation's worse than it was because I fought back again, but it's like, how much worse is it, though? It kind of seems like it doesn't matter. I can double down again and again, but if I'm not allowed in anything anyway, I might as well just keep doing it. Well, so that's all for now, guys. And I hope this covers something. And if not, this is good meme content anyway. Even if you don't believe in all this shit. Even if you think that I'm just some lunatic, I don't even give a shit what you think. You want to say I'm making it up, there's no God, there's no devil or whatever. Keep saying all that shit, dude. Because I'm exposing the mob. And I'm only in this to get known. I'm only in this to point out corruption. That'll be all for now, guys. Peace out.